Something I wanted to shut up about in my Cuphead video is how much I really liked that he felt like he were playing Cuphead from the game Cuphead. And Mugman's the same way. While Cuphead focused on the mobility and parrying aspect of Cuphead, Mugman focuses on the shooting aspect and using EXE shots. I think Mugman's pretty fun to play, especially once you get the hang of how to properly micromanage your cards and use EXE shots when appropriate and using Super Art 1 when appropriate. Mugman does have a few problems in his kit, mostly just kind of bug and optimization issues, but other than that, he is a fun character to play. It really makes you feel like you're playing Cuphead. Mugman is a middle court character that has a huge focus on range support, being slowing with Peashooters and stunning with EXE shots, and the occasional Super Art 1 to help teammates out of very tight situations. Similarly to Cuphead, Mugman has the super card mechanic in his kit, but unlike Cuphead, Mugman can't use any of his other skills until he gets some cards from using Peashooter. In terms of range support though, Mugman is very good at helping the team from afar, either by prolonging chases or being able to outright end them in some cases with EXE shot and Super Art 1. The only problem when it comes to this is that Mugman has to be able to hit his shots. It's not the hardest thing to do in the world, but if you don't hit your shots, you're not going to be helping your team a whole lot. The main and only skill Mugman can use without having to need a super cards is Peashooter. Upon activation, Mugman will lock onto wherever your camera is facing and you will be granted 14 Peashooter shots. The projectiles themselves have a decent amount of speed to them, they cover a lot of ground, and upon hitting a killer, it will slow them drastically. Every 2 shots landed on EXE will grant Mugman 1 super meter card, or if you're being buffed by Frisk, it will only take 1 hit to get a card. You typically don't want to be near the EXE, you want to stay in safe spots where you can snipe them without getting too close. The best spot to be using this is either on a hill or ledge type area where you can comfortably shoot the killer without them being able to get to you easily. You can use Peashooter during chase, but it's not the most practical thing to do. If you're being chased, it's going to be a lot harder to hit your shots consistently, especially if the killer knows how to weave around. Oh, and side note, you do not get any super meter for shooting stun killers. Not a whole lot else to say about Peashooter. It's just a very simple range slowing projectile that can annoy the killer a lot if they're just letting you do your thing. Mugman's second skill and his main stun of his kit is EXE shot. For the low price of 1 super art card, you get a range stun that is AoE.
That's quite big.
And can be used both in air and on the ground. And the cherry on top is that you also get iframes while using it. This is one of the strongest stuns in the game just by virtue of it being a ranged stun that has a splash effect to it. And if you happen to be being buffed by Frisk when using EXE shot, the stun lasts even longer. Upon activation, after a very short windup, Mugman will fire a EXE shot in whatever direction you're facing, and if you're in the air, you will hover in the air for the duration of the animation. This is a great tool to help teammates in chase because the stun lasts a decent amount of time and it is very hard to avoid if you're aiming even remotely near where the killer's running at. And if you yourself are being chased, the killer has virtually no way of dodging this if they're right on top of you because you can just jump and fire it at your feet. You do have to spend a card to use the skill, and if you don't have any cards, you can't use the skill at all. Also, the knockback can be a bit finicky at times. Other than that, this is one of the best stuns in the game that has virtually no drawbacks besides being able to hit your Peashooter shots. Mugman's final skill is Super Art 1. The skill costs 5 super cards to use, and you can only hold 5 super cards at any given time, but upon activation, Mugman will start firing out a massive beam that will push back any killers drastically till the animation ends. It's also not considered a stun, so it won't give Vortex any meter, and during the animation you have iframes until it ends. The skill itself though is just kind of It can be a bit hard to consistently get the 5 cards use a skill, especially if you're using EXE shot a lot. It's not the worst thing in the world, and it can end chases really well if used right, but the problem is it's a very situational tool to use, because in tight corridors where there's not any wide areas to shoot them to, you're going to get 0 value off this. To get the most value of Super Art 1, you typically want to use this in wide open areas where it's really hard to avoid and there's no walls in sight, or areas that have very high ledges that are really hard to get back up to. It's just kind of a slightly worse version of Inkwave. It can still help the team a lot, it's just a lot more situational than just using something like an EXE shot. My closing thoughts on Mugman is that I actually don't think he's the worst character in the game like a lot of other people seem to think he is. Despite Super Art 1 being a bit on the weaker side, especially how hard you have to work to get it, I do think Peashooter and EXE shot more than make up for that. Peashooter is a great way to help teammates from range and even yourself to prolong chase by either shooting the killer before they get close to you. EXE shot's one of the best stuns in the game, just being a ranged stun with a splash effect that can easily end chases on teammates and yourself. I think the biggest problem with Mugman right now, and the reason people say he's the worst, is just because he has some bug and optimization issues in his kit at the moment. Sometimes the Peashooter shots will just kind of randomly shoot up above you instead of where you're aiming, and the fact that Super Art 1 has to be where Mugman's facing and not where the camera is can be really finicky at times, especially in chase. And DXE shot having some problems where the killer will get launched in a bit of a weird direction sometimes. I actually don't think Mugman needs to be buffed in any way, shape, or form. Maybe Super Art 1, but really the only problems in his kit are just kind of bug and optimization issues. And even then, once the devs get all of that stuff patched out, I'm sure people will start seeing Mugman as a lot better than they initially thought. Speaking of, make sure to send the devs a ton of support. They're working really hard to make the game as fun and optimized as possible, and they're currently working on Mugman mobile support, so that's something to look forward to for mobile players. But that's really about it. I'm sure once they get the bugs and kinks side of Mugman's kit whenever they can, I'm sure people will start to see he's a really good character that's being slept on. I already know what character I'm going to be talking about in my next video, so that'll come out whenever it does. I don't know how long it will eventually.